I'm the Director of Community Impact Grant Making at the Hartford Foundation. For this morning's session, we are going to spend about 30 minutes providing you with some information. This session is designed to share with our nonprofit partners what current opportunities we have at the Hartford Foundation to support your work, what we have currently, maybe what's new, and what might be upcoming soon. We hope to provide these sessions fairly regularly. We look forward to your feedback on how regularly you might like to have them. So we will be focusing in this session on opportunities in the first quarter of this year. I will start off with some general updates. I will then pass the floor to my colleague, Mayor Schulman, from our capacity building program. She will pass the floor to Kate Serbaki from Learning and Evaluation. And then I will facilitate a question and answer period that should take up about the last 30 minutes of our session. We really want to make sure we leave time for your questions. We all recognize we learn as much from those questions as I think you do. So we look forward to seeing what you have for us today. So with that general update, I'm going to kick off on with our general updates. This is not necessarily new or different, but I think it's always worthwhile to reiterate the current strategic priorities of the Hartford Foundation. As many of you will know, in the last couple of years, we have moved in a slightly new direction to prioritize our support in ways that can contribute to dismantling structural racism in Greater Hartford and contributing to more equitable economic and social opportunities in the region. I think, like so many, have been learning about what this really means and what work that does this looks like, and we recognize that it takes many forms. I think with the launch of access grants last year, we really opened it up to the community to share your ideas with us. And that has been enormously helpful to us. And we've really been listening and seeing what the various ideas could be. Based on what we have learned and what we continue to learn, we have updated one of our web pages where we describe our strategic commitment. And we invite everyone to take a minute to look there and see the updated information. It really is sort of a working definition for us about what it means to dismantle structural racism and the various ways that folks can approach that work. So take a moment in your own time to have a look at that. We definitely heard from folks that people wanted a little bit more detail about what that meant. And so we have tried to provide that, and we hope that that information is useful. So what's new? There's a couple things I would like to mention in the what's new category. One of those is something we've been working on just over the last few weeks, and it is an update to our current opportunities page of our website. We've heard from folks that having more time to plan and having a sense of what is coming up, even if it's not already an open opportunity, is really helpful for nonprofits who are trying to figure out how their work aligns with ours. So we have done what we can do to try to project as far out into this year. So in addition to seeing opportunities that are currently open, you will also see on this page now upcoming opportunities. And as we get more details about these, such as launch dates, closing dates, more details on the parameters and the criteria for those various opportunities, we will be continually updating this page. We hope that it's useful, and like everything else, we welcome your feedback. It is something new we are trying, and we expect that you all may help us to make it even more useful. The second new situation that I wanted to mention is that starting actually last year, the Hartford Foundation started doing kind of a comprehensive look at our grants application processes, how we review grants, our grant award letters, really the whole process from kind of start to finish of searching for, securing, and reporting on a grant. We did launch a survey to our nonprofit partners to get your feedback on what you felt would make our grant processes more accessible. We also did a pretty comprehensive look at what we had learned from our COVID relief grant making, which many of you will recall was a really obviously big focus of ours and the communities in 2020 and into 2021. We have a report available on the lessons that we did learn from that COVID grant making. And I do just want to mention my colleague Cynthia Sanchez is putting links in the chat as I refer to things on our website. And those links are there if you want to look during the meeting. We will also be circulating all of this information after the meeting. So based on what we learned from our COVID grant making and from the results of the survey that probably many of you responded to, we really are appreciative of our nonprofit partners. We did get 150 responses to that survey. So we've gotten a lot of really great information. And I just wanted to signal this as something that you will be hearing more about as we process the results of that survey and really look at how we can make our application process, reporting processes, work better for you and hopefully for us as well. So what remains the same about what we're doing? One thing that I think is really important to stress is that one thing that remains the same is that we are here and we are always available to have a conversation if you are not sure whether or not there is a resource available to you or your nonprofit at the Hartford Foundation. We're really striving to provide a lot of information on our website and through things like this information session, but we know that many of you have particular individual circumstances where you might really benefit from a conversation. And that option is still available. And for the foreseeable future, we think that it is really a useful resource. So I would encourage anyone at any time to reach out to applications@hfpg.org and request a time to speak with one of our staff members. And I will actually mention that the staff member is Tara Sunday. I think as our sort of port of entry for many of you, you already know her. So I just want to remind everybody that we still have that available and we welcome your outreach to find out more. The other thing that remains the same, some of you may recall that last year we launched a new RFP notifications tool. This is something that you can sign up for on our website that will send you an automatic alert every time a new open RFP becomes available on our website. We think this is really important because we really hope that all of our nonprofit partners feel like you have the information you need to determine what opportunities might be the right match for you. We don't want nonprofits to be applying for opportunities that may be sort of more narrow than or in a different direction than your work because you're really trying to fit yourself into something that we have made available. There will be a number of opportunities available. We want you to find the opportunity that is the best match and most aligned with your work. We value your time and we really want you to be able to spend it well. We feel like this RFP notifications tool will help you to kind of keep on top of those opportunities and really find it coming to you in your inbox without us having to sort of think about who might be the right match for this particular opportunity and missing somebody out. We want to really be inclusive and make sure you all have access to that information. So please feel free to sign up for that and share that information with anyone who you think could benefit from it. So what opportunities are available now? Now, remember, I'm going to speak a little bit about general opportunities, and then I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues in just a minute or two. So I'm really pleased to announce that we are relaunching, and we have relaunched our Access Grants opportunity for the second year. Some of you may have attended an information session about that last year and may have applied. We were really impressed by the applications we received last year. the creativity, the dedication, the hard work that's going on in our community to address systemic racism and to really promote more equitable opportunities for Greater Hartford residents. It's why we wake up in the morning, and it's so exciting to see so many of you involved in that as well. So that is, we have relaunched for this year. We will once again have 2 rounds. I am going to remind folks that this particular opportunity is designed to support nonprofits with a mission or proposed project that is aligned with our strategic priority to help dismantle structural racism and advance equitable social and economic mobility. Access Grants is really, we hope that it is responsive to nonprofits who may be new to the foundation or not as familiar with our procedures. We do have a preference in awarding those grants to support organizations whose leadership and staff at all levels are reflective of the community that they're serving. And we are prioritizing organizations that benefit people of color or other traditionally marginalized populations. Last year, we awarded just under $1.15 million across the 2 rounds to 33 different grants. And we do have more information on our website about who secured funding for those grants. For this year, the purpose of that grant opportunity remains exactly the same. It has not changed. A couple of things have changed. We have updated the timeline, and a lot of these changes are based on the feedback that you provided to us. So we really appreciate that. The deadline for the first, there'll still be 2 rounds. The deadline for the first round will be February 14th. So we hope that doesn't interrupt any Valentine's Day plans that any of you may have. Get it in a day early, and then you'll have all of Valentine's Day to celebrate. And those awards in the first round will be announced at the end of April. The second round will close on August 5th. This is very similar to last year, and those awards for the second round will be announced at the end of October. We deliberately spaced out the 2 rounds this year because we found that several organizations who applied in the first round and asked for feedback on their application really had very little time to make adjustments and changes to that application. And we would like to make sure that you all have more time this year. So we hope that having the rounds more spaced out will provide more opportunities for us to work with you to strengthen your application when your work is aligned with that particular purpose. The other changes are in both the application form and the rubric that we are using to evaluate it. They are not major changes, but hopefully they're changes that you will appreciate and that will make them work better for you. These changes also are based on your feedback. The application form is a little bit shorter. There's a couple questions that we eliminated. And we also provided more space for your answers. So we raised the character limit. That was something that a number of you requested, and we have done that. So please feel free to use all the space you have. So that is our update on the Access Grants opportunity. I know some of you have already started working on applications for that, and we really are looking forward to hearing your ideas and seeing what you have for us. There are also 2 other opportunities that are currently open. One is to support summer opportunities for Hartford youth and people with disabilities in Greater Hartford. That one does close tomorrow night. There was an information session about that in December. So we hope that everyone who is interested in applying for that has already been able to be working on their application. And we recently launched an open call for applications that is very specific to a particular fund that we hold here at the Hartford Foundation that is designated for the benefit of residents of Granby. So if you are a nonprofit that is serving the residents of Granby, please feel free to check out that open RFP. And then I'm just going to say a few more words here before I pass it over to my colleague Mayor. In this quarter, so before the end of March, we will have 2 additional open RFPs that will be coming out. One will be to support community organizing, and the other will be to support resident engagement. Both of those RFPs will be launched next week. So next week, we will be posting information on our website. If you are signed up for the RFP notification tool, you will get an email in your inbox once the information for those RFPs is posted. We encourage you to review that information, read through it. There will be information sessions for both of those RFPs, and they will be both the week of January 31st. And I will also mention that my colleague Sierra Stansel will be the officer leading that effort. And so she will also be available for questions if anyone cannot make those info sessions or does not find that the information in the announcements are clear. But we will be posting that information next week. So I encourage you to hold any questions on those particular opportunities until you've had a chance to see what comes out next week. So that's what's coming up. And I know that was a very quick overview of a lot of things, and there's more to come. So I am now going to pass the floor to my colleague, Mary Schulman of our nonprofit support program, and she will be walking you through some opportunities. Thank you.
Thanks, Megan, and good morning, everyone. As Megan said, I'm with the Nonprofit Support Program, and we are the organizational capacity building arm of the Hartford Foundation, and we provide a wide range of services to help nonprofit leaders to manage and to govern their organizations more effectively. We don't have time this morning to go in great detail about all of these services, but they are all laid out on our website, and we will share the link to the website with you on the last slide. And by the way, we will post the slides as a PDF in the chat at the end of my comments. So I'm going to start by sharing with you 3 programs that are coming up soon this winter and spring. And then I'll talk about some ongoing opportunities that are available to nonprofits at any time during the year. So I'll start with the 3 upcoming programs that we are offering. The first one is the fundraising training program, which basically consists of 3 parts. The first part is an 8-week online fundraising course that provides you with an overview of nonprofit fundraising. The second component is some group convenings, which bring participants together to discuss and to share ideas about what they've learned in the online course. And then the third component is some individual coaching to help participants to apply and to implement what they've learned back at their organizations. So if you think you might be interested in learning more about this program, what's involved, whether you might be interested in applying, you should know that we're actually holding an information session on that program tomorrow morning. That's January 21st from 9 to 10 a.m. And in case you're interested in attending that info session, we are posting the link to register in the chat now. So you can click on that and it'll take you to the link and you can register if you're interested. The next opportunity we have coming up is the Building Evaluation Capacity Program, or BEC, as it's come to be known. It's an 18-month program that is designed to help agency teams to learn how to do program evaluation and to use evaluative thinking in their organization's work. We will be offering an information session on that program on February 15th from 9 to 10 a.m. And we are posting the link to register for that information session on BEC in the chat now. The third upcoming opportunity I wanted to mention is the Small Agency Technology Program, which we will be offering for the very first time this spring, and it will launch sometime in February. This program is for organizations that have budgets between $50,000 and $300,000, and those organizations would be eligible to apply for a technology assessment, some guidance from a technology consultant, and the opportunity to apply for a small grant of up to about $10,000 for technology projects. And we don't have the exact timing of that figured out yet, but we will be sending out information on this program sometime in February. So be on the lookout for that. And finally, I'd like to mention some of our grant opportunities that are offered on an ongoing or rolling basis. So basically what that means is that you can apply at any time. There's no specific deadline. The first one of those is the Small Agency Grant Program. This program is for organizations with budgets under $300,000. Grants of up to $10,000 are available to help fund programs, but also for general operating support for smaller nonprofits. Next are our technical assistance grants, or TAGs as we call them. These grants can be used for a wide range of organization-wide planning. So that planning could be strategic planning or fundraising planning or board development. They can also be used for exploring collaborations and mergers or improving your human resources system. So any type of organization-wide planning. Next are our executive transition grants. These are grants that are meant to help with the transition and search for a new executive director or CEO. These grants cover the cost of a consultant's time to help facilitate the organization through the whole search and transition process. And two other programs I'd like to mention. Next is our strategic technology program. This is for organizations with budgets of $300,000 and up. It includes an assessment of your technology needs, guidance from a technology consultant to help you develop a strategic technology plan, excuse me, and grants to help fund what's in your technology plan. And finally, the last sort of ongoing opportunity that I'll mention is our financial management grants, which start with a review of your financial systems and processes by a financial expert, followed by the identification for some areas for improvement, and then some grants to implement. So all of the programs that I've mentioned are listed on the NSP website, and we're also posting the URL for the NSP website in the chat for you now for your reference. And we will also be posting momentarily a PDF of the slides that I've just shared with you. So you'll have all that information for your reference anytime you want to look back at it. So if you think you might be interested in any of these programs, please do be in touch with us. If you have questions, my email address is on this slide, and we're also putting it in the chat. So I know that was a whirlwind, but thanks everyone for bearing with us, and just be in touch if you have questions. And I will now turn the program over to my colleague, Kate Zerbaki.
Thanks, Mayor. My part of the presentation isn't so action-packed, but I have a couple resources that I'd like to share with you. They're not grant opportunities, but I like to think of them as quick data reference tools that we at the foundation use to understand our landscape, the demography of the region and our towns, and to think about needs. So I wanted to share these two tools that come to us from two of our data nonprofit partners, the Connecticut Data Collaborative and Data Haven. So I'm going to share my screen and navigate in my browser. So if you'll forgive me for a second, I will show you the first one. Hopefully you can all see this. Maybe I'll get a nod from Mayor or Megan because I can see them on my screen. So this is the first tool I'd like to share with you. This is the Connecticut Town Profiles. It's brought to you by the Connecticut Data Collaborative and Advanced CT. They actually just revamped these profiles in the last year to make them a little bit easier to read and to expand the economic and demographic content that's found in the profiles. You can navigate and find individual town profiles by using this menu here on the left-hand side of your screen. You can select any town that is in one of the 169 towns in Connecticut. I had selected Bloomfield earlier, just as an example. It is one of the towns in the foundation's catchment. It's a really excellent and very short reference document that includes a lot of good information, not only on demographics, as you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, but on the economy, digging deep into municipal spending, other fiscal indicators like municipal revenue, debt, key employers in the region, and things of that nature. There's also some information on education indicators, access, transportation, and the like. I'm sharing things that I don't want to share. Now I'm going to take you to the Data Havens resource. This is a little bit of a longer reference document. This is unlike the Connecticut Data Collaborative, which is about 2 pages long. This digs a little bit deeper into indicators beyond demographics, but socio and economic measures of well-being in the region and for each town. You can pull up a report for any town using this little field right here. I have Bloomfield pre-populated. You can just send it in there. It will generate a town equity profile. The beauty of this is that it not only provides you with indicators that are for each town and cutting across a variety of socio and economic measures, it also breaks down these measures, and please tell me if I'm scrolling too fast, by different racial and ethnic groups, age groups, and gender, so that you're able to look at disaggregated data for towns. In addition to this new resource that, again, you can generate an equity profile for any town, Data Haven has been so kind to generate one for our region that will soon be available on our website. If my colleagues Cynthia or Michaela haven't already done so, they're going to drop some of these links in the chat to both resources, and you should receive communications in the future when we have that regional data set available to you. So I am going to stop sharing, or someone can stop sharing for me. And yeah, those are the 2 resources. Please get in touch with either of these organizations if you want help using either of these reference tools. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Mayor and Kate. I love learning what else is going on in our community impact department, and I hope that everyone on this call is it's finding some new information. I recognize with such a big group, there's probably a mix. Some of you may have heard a lot of this before, and for some of you, this may be new. So I really appreciate everyone's patience to make sure that we're all on the same page and we all have access to the same information about these resources and opportunities. I'm also really impressed, if I can say so myself, that we did manage to convey all that information in about a half an hour. We really wanted to reserve a big chunk of time for all of you to get your questions out there. We have heard from you that you enjoy the question and answer section of these sessions. And we definitely want to hear from your questions. Because we are such a large group, I would ask that you post your questions in the chat. I will be scrolling through those, and my colleagues, Cynthia, Tara, and Kelly will be helping me to do that. And we will answer as many of those as possible. We also recognize that not everyone may feel comfortable asking questions in such a large group. As I mentioned at the top of the meeting, you are welcome to ask your questions outside of this session. But we hope that people also benefit from hearing from one another's questions. We are taking notes on the questions and answers that both are asked and provided, and we will be posting a sort of summary of that on our website. And so we will be making a link available to that when that is available. So if you want to review any of the information provided, that will be there for you. Finally, I do want to mention, and I will repeat this at the very end, that we will be posting a link to a survey at the end of the session where we will be asking for your feedback on this session. And we would really love your ideas for what you would like to see in a future session like this, whether it's content, format, whatever feedback you would like to provide. So with enough of my pattering on, I see that the questions have started. So I am going to start scrolling through them, and I will read them out loud as I answer them. So everyone will have a chance to know what I am answering. So the first question: if we are current Access Grant awardees, Hartford Foundation General Operations grantees, I interpret that as, can we still apply for access or community organizing grant opportunities this year? That is a great question. So first of all, if you are a current Access Grant awardee, if you would like continued support for the same activities for which you got an Access Grant last year, we ask that you not apply to the Access Grant opportunity for that continued support. Please connect with the officer that has been assigned to you for that grant, and you can discuss continued support for that same activity through other sources. If your organization has a new activity or a new idea, it doesn't have to be new, but something that you did not apply to Access Grants for in the past that you think aligns well with the Access Grant opportunity, you are welcome to come in through the Access Grants door to request support for that different activity, let's say. I will also say, in terms of the rest of the question, for Access Grants, we do have a preference in our rubric, which you can all see, for organizations that do not currently have open multi-year or larger grant funding through another door of the Hartford Foundation. So while you can still apply, you'll see that that will impact the preference that we give to your application as compared to others. The next question, do organizations with budgets under $50,000 qualify for the small agency technology program? Thank you, Regina. I will note that in Mayor's presentation, the criteria she provided mentioned that those grants are available only to organizations with annual budgets between $50,000 and $300,000. So I would invite you all, to anyone who has questions specifically about the small agency program, to reach out to my colleague Yvette Bello, that's ybello@hfpg.org, to find out more information specifically about those programs. Linda, thanks for your thanks. Katie, let's see. You say your organization is new, you've not raised funds yet, you started in July of 2021. Would we be eligible for any upcoming grant opportunities? So in general, for very new nonprofits, we are definitely interested in considering the work that you're doing and the impact that you might have in Greater Hartford. Some of our application processes do have a requirement for having been active for at least a year, and that is true of Access Grants, for example. We do define that active for at least a year as we define that pretty loosely. It does not need to be 12 months consecutive. It does not need to be the 12 months exactly prior to when you are applying, but we would like to see that you have been active in Greater Hartford, that you have some track record and connection to the region, and that is why we specify that. That may not necessarily be true for all grant opportunities, but I would encourage you to read various opportunities and find out what the specific criteria for those are. But I would say in general, as a community-based foundation that is serving Greater Hartford, we always have a preference for organizations that have some track record and connection to our region. The next question, are there ever webinars specifically geared towards small nonprofits, $500,000 or smaller? The answer to that question, I would say, is that we do have a specific small agencies program. That program serves small agencies with budgets of $300,000 or less. As Mayor mentioned, there's a new opportunity for those nonprofits to secure technology grants, and there will be an info session for that opportunity. We don't have a date yet, so I'd encourage you to reach back out. And I would say, again, for other opportunities, program support or general operating support for smaller agencies, those opportunities are available on a rolling basis. So I definitely would encourage you to reach out to Yvette Bello to find out more. And Mayor, please go ahead and chime in.
Yeah, just a quick additional comment is that the foundation does sponsor some workshops for small agencies at the Hartford Public Library. And we are in the process of having a new slate of workshops for coming up in the spring. So we can post the link to that page in the chat. And then when those workshops happen, you'll have that link and you can access those free workshops. Thanks, Megan.
That was a great addition. Thank you, Mayor. And also, I'm really pleased to see that Yvette has posted her contacts in the chat. It's great that Yvette is with us. Thank you, Yvette. The next question we have is from Bob Fishman. Can we apply for both capacity and access grants? The really short answer is yes. When opportunities are exclusive or might prevent you from applying for other opportunities, we will always note that, if that is the case, in the criteria for eligibility for that particular opportunity. Our access grants, if an organization applies for access grants, it does not preclude them from seeking out capacity building support. In fact, last year, through the access grants opportunity, we were able to refer some organizations, both organizations who were awarded grants and some who were not, to our capacity building program when we felt that there might be some resources there that would benefit the organization. So we recognize that an organization may be seeking support for a particular program, for example, that can really contribute significantly to dismantling structural racism or promoting more equitable economic and social mobility, but that organization may also benefit from capacity building support that would make their work more effective. And we're very supportive of that. I will say in several of our access grants, as I mentioned earlier, in our rubric, you will see that we do have we award the most points to organizations that do not already have an open active grant with the foundation. That does not preclude an organization that has an open and active grant from applying. It just means in that particular rubric, if you do have an open and active grant, you will not secure the maximum points for that. But there's a lot of other areas to secure points, and as you'll see when you check out that rubric. So if your proposal is a strong fit and a great match in many other ways, likely that would not necessarily be an obstacle to getting support. And thanks, Michaela, for providing the link to that rubric. So if anyone wants to look at that while we're speaking, you're welcome to check that out. Let's see. We have one new message. Okay, so Anna Paula, in terms of priority for organizations that do not have an open and active grant, if the organization has a pending grant for an impact investing opportunity, does that count? It does not. If you have a pending application in, we take each opportunity as it comes, and as we are reviewing your application for any particular opportunity, we will look at what you have already been awarded. If it were in the reverse order and there was a decision made about your impact investing opportunity first, we would then know that when we were reviewing your access grant application. But if the order is reversed, we will not hold a pending application against you in any way. We know that many of our nonprofit partners are looking to pursue a number of different opportunities that they feel like may be a good match. And we may be aware that is happening, but we encourage you to apply when you feel that there is a strong match to support your work. You're welcome. I have to say to everybody, as there's a slight pause in the questions, I feel like I really appreciate having a slightly less formal feel to these sessions. And you may also feel that way. When we saw how many folks had registered, we decided we needed to make it a little bit formal. And that is not what we necessarily aspire to. But I thank everyone for being patient with us and making sure we're able to provide all of this information to many people at once. So we now have a question for Jessica. If the project we submitted to last year's Access Grant opportunity was not selected for funding, would you suggest reapplying with the same project? Jessica, I think that's a question that each nonprofit may be best suited to answer for themselves. I think every year we have to look at what application comes in comparison with whatever else we may receive. We did receive a really large number of applications last year. They were excellent applications. It was really hard to decide. We did follow the rubric very closely. So I think in looking at the rubric, you yourself may be able to see where your application may not have been as strong as some of the others that were awarded grants. If you did not schedule a time to request feedback on your application last year, I would encourage you to consider pursuing that this year. We are available. We are happy to provide feedback, and that feedback may help you decide whether or not it makes sense to apply. We really strive to be transparent about this. We don't want there to be mysteries. As I mentioned earlier in the call, we really value everyone's time. We know your real work is serving the community, not applying for grants. And so we don't want you to waste time if it's not going to be a good fit. So for that reason, we are trying to provide as much detailed information as we can on the website. We're holding this information session. We're inviting your questions, and we are also available over email, through a phone call, to answer any additional questions you may have. I hope that's helpful. Great. I'll also note as we wait for the next question that my colleague Erica Frank has posted information about HFPG Impact, our impact investing subsidiary, which offers loans, guarantees, and equity investments to supplement our grant making. So she provided a link to that in the chat. So hopefully if anyone has some questions or would like some more information about that, you can check out what's on our website, and also feel free to reach out to Erica directly. She is really excellent at explaining HFPG Impact, to me anyway. And so I hope that you all find the information that she can provide helpful on that front. I welcome additional questions. I don't see any questions right now. I'm going to keep chatting because I expect that folks may be thinking and considering your questions. I would also say that if the questions dry up, we will end. We're never aiming to keep people longer than necessary. And I know that we have provided really an avalanche of information in this session. As Mayor mentioned, we will be providing the slides that she shared. We'll also be providing links to the resources that Kate Zerbaki provided, as well as all of the links that were posted in the chat for all of the opportunities that are currently on our website. Let's see. I'm glad that people are commenting that they think this session has been helpful. We also welcome constructive criticism. So if you think it wasn't helpful, that is totally also welcome information. As I mentioned, we don't want to waste your time or ours. So any way we can shape these to make them more useful to your efforts to resource your work, that's what we're here for. And we're always learning, and we know we're far from perfect. So we welcome your willingness to engage with us and help us do better. I am going to ask Cynthia if you could post the link to our survey in the chat. I would love for folks to respond to that survey. It is really short. There's 3 questions, I think, and there's short ways to answer those questions. And there's also some open text boxes so that you can really expand on those answers if you would like. So you can either spend 1.5 minutes on it, or probably at most 10 if you decide to really give us long form answers. There's the link. Thank you so much, Cynthia. So please do respond to this survey. I think you'll find that it doesn't take any longer than warming up that cup of coffee in your microwave. So you can do it all at the same time. We'll also be emailing around the link to the survey with the materials from the session. So if you don't have a chance to click on it right now and you lose the chat, we will make sure that you have access to it. So we have another question here, which I'm happy to answer. And please don't apologize for any questions. They're all welcome. Your question has not been covered already. Do we anticipate any COVID-specific funding opportunities in the near future? We don't currently anticipate this, although it is something that I will say we have been questioning a little bit ourselves. We're obviously really cognizant of the challenging circumstances in Greater Hartford and really across the United States and the world with the Omicron variant of the virus and the high levels of infection rates. That being said, we have really tried to integrate the support we were providing through the COVID fund into our sort of more permanent strategic priority areas. So I would say, for example, the vast majority of our COVID support in 2020 was for basic human needs assistance. We do have a strategic priority area that focuses on addressing basic human needs. And I can actually share, though, that I wasn't necessarily going to at this session, but I'm happy to do so because we have a minute or two. We are going to be shifting a little bit the way we award our small emergency assistance basic human needs grants this year. Some of you may be familiar with those grants that we've made for many years that we have always sort of traditionally awarded in the fall to early winter. This year, we are planning to make 2 rounds of awards. One round of grants would go out in June. One round would go out in late fall, early winter, sort of the traditional time. And we are moving towards that cycle because we do recognize that for some of these emergency assistance questions, particularly in this time of COVID, things are really unpredictable and organizations may be facing urgent needs that they can't meet with their regular operating budget or the way they have done things in the past. So we are still in the works of ironing out the full details of that. And so I think everyone can look for some more information on that in the next month or two. And we will be having a specific information session on that particular opportunity as well. I realize that's a bit of a tangent, Katie, from your original question. So just to kind of circle back to that, to say that as of now, we do not have plans to launch a COVID-specific funding opportunity. We have tried to integrate those needs into our other opportunities that are there on a more ongoing permanent basis. But I would say if folks have identified a particular need that they do not feel is being met through one of our existing opportunities, please do reach out and share that information with us because our thinking on this is also evolving as the situation is evolving and it's fast changing. Let's see. Yes, Katie, I agree. The COVID situation does seem never ending. And I think that, kudos to this community for being so resilient and being available to Greater Hartford residents at this time of great need. We've really seen our nonprofits really step up. And I know it's been challenging and labor shortages are taxing so many of you all as well. So please don't feel that we are unaware of all of that. And we certainly are open to hearing about how this may be impacting your nonprofit or the community that you serve and your ability to serve that particular community. So I'm not seeing additional questions in the chat. We have provided the link to the survey. I hope folks are starting to fill that out and provide us with feedback. We are considering offering these sessions quarterly. We could do them less often if they are not of interest. We could do them more often if they are more of interest. We really are depending on you to let us know how we can best get the information to you that you need. We have a question from Jada. How can local artists be acknowledged for what we can provide for nonprofit organizations to choose us? So I think this is a question about support to individual artists and your interest in finding out how to connect with nonprofit organizations. Perhaps your interest in doing work with those particular organizations. We do have an area of grant making that is designed to support the work and the inclusion of artists of color in Greater Hartford, both on their own as independent artists and through arts organizations in the community. We made a series of grants last year advised by our Artists of Color Unite group, which is an advisory group that we have working with local artists in the community. We established an independent artists fund, which we funded last year. We're currently exploring whether or not we will continue that. That may be one opportunity. We also supported a program called Artists of Color Accelerate, which helps to match artists of color with arts organizations in the community to provide additional opportunities both to the artists and to those organizations so that they can incorporate broader perspectives into their work. So we will be exploring this year how we can do more of that and how to do it better. And Jada, I would welcome your information, your feedback. And the information on where you can find out more about this, I don't have the link off the top of my head. Cynthia, if you're able to find the link, if you go to nonprofits and search for our 5 priority areas, one of them is arts. And within the arts page, there's also a link to our Artists of Color Unite advisory group, where you can see who the members are, a little bit about them, and a little bit about how they have been advising us in our grant making in this area. Katie, thanks also for your feedback on having additional sessions such as this, perhaps annually or twice a year. And thank you, Cynthia, for the link to our page on Artists of Color Unite. So Jada, I hope that that link is useful. I see that we are approaching noon. I, again, hope this session has been useful to all of you. I encourage you again to provide feedback. I know I'm repeating myself a little bit, but I'm also partly buying time just in case there's one last question before we close out. I thank my colleagues. I want to do a special call out to Tara Sunday, who is really the driving force coordinating our access grants opportunity, to Tara and Cynthia, who have done so much to support this session, to Kelly Casey, who designed our survey and is collecting all of that information, also to Tara and Kelly, who are taking notes on the question and answer, and will be helping to make that information available on the website. And of course, to my fellow speakers, Kate and Mare. We do have one last question here. Are there any new opportunities for nonprofits who provide scholarships to children of all faiths who are attending Catholic schools? So I think we don't explicitly prohibit that. That being said, we have had questions over time about scholarship opportunities in particular. Now, I want to make it clear that we do have a pretty comprehensive scholarship program for post-secondary opportunities, but currently we do not have support for scholarships for high school or any K through 12 opportunities. We had a question about this last year, and I think if I can recall my answer, it was something along the lines of, we recognize that a scholarship certainly will have a great impact on advancing the economic mobility for one particular student or a small number if it's more than one scholarship, but the scope of impact through such a grant would be very limited compared to other opportunities that we might be able to fund. So as of right now, this is not something that we have been supporting. And so I hope that answers your question. So we are at time. I thank you all so much for attending. I think we all really appreciate your questions, and we really value the work that all of you are doing for the community. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful afternoon.